Hey guys, and welcome to Dan Reviews It. This is the 2017 recap on the best and worst movies. I know it's a little bit late. Usually I do a preliminary one at the end of December, but I wasn't really doing videos then. But after the Oscars are over, that's kind of my cutoff for okay, let's see all the movies released in 2017 that I can. And so that's where we end up. I got to almost 200 this year. Which actually is a little bit down from the previous few years just because I wasn't doing the weekly movie review podcast, Film Fanatic. So, it's a little bit down. I think maybe 225 to 230 was typical for the last few years. But still, 200 movies is not bad. So a wide selection to choose from. All kinds of movies are on the list. From the big blockbusters to some of the more independent movies to documentaries to foreign films, so it really runs the gamut. Some Netflix originals even, and I did see the entire top 100 grossing films of 2017, in addition to a lot from 101 to 200 as well. But the top 100 I've seen all of them, good or bad. So let's just dive into it. I guess maybe we'll start with the bad. How about that? So the bottom 10 goes something like this. I actually only had 8 Fs this year. I guess maybe that is because I watched about 25 or 30 less movies. Usually I do have 9 or 10 Fs, so that kind of almost entirely makes up the bottom 10. But 9 and 10 are actually movies I did not fail completely. They're not totally horrible, but pretty bad. I gave them both Ds. Number 10 is the Emoji Movie. Why is this not an F? It just, it made me chuckle a few times. I think maybe 3. But that was it. And there's a worse animated movie coming up on the list, so we'll get to that. I'm not going to do little, blurbs for every movie. That would take forever. But, alright, so number 9 is Handsome, a Netflix mystery movie. That was a Netflix original, obviously, from the title, with Jeff Garlin. It was just awful. Nothing that good about it. I like him. He's, likable. But the mystery part was terrible, and it was just bad. Alright, so these are all the ones I gave Fs to this year, all 8. Number 8 was Wonder Wheel, the Woody Allen movie. It was easily one of his worst films. Kate Winslet almost held it together, but couldn't. The Justin Timberlake accent is horrible. It's not a good movie. It really, Woody Allen has done some bad ones lately, but that's definitely one of them up there. The Bye Bye Man is number 7. Really just, standard horror there. Take the 10 is number 6. That's another Netflix original. It's supposed to be a comedy, but it was really not funny at all. I forget even who the guy is that's in it. Oh, it's Tony Revolori from Grand Budapest Hotel is the lead actor. It was not good. Number 5 was Geostorm. You can imagine that is not good just from the preview, or really the title alone kind of tells the tale there. Just Getting Started was number 4. Yet another Morgan Freeman, hey, I'm retiring kind of movie. This was the worst of the bunch. Going in Style also came out this year, which I gave a decent grade to. Right? B-. Okay, so definitely better than an F. Going in Style was definitely the preferred Morgan Freeman one. Here's your animated. Number 3, worst movie of the year, The Nut Job 2, Nutty by Nature. The original never needed a sequel. The original is terrible enough. This one somehow is even worse than that. I think the original might have gotten a D+ from me, not even just a D. But this one, just nothing redeeming about. Number 2 worst, 50 Shades Darker. I reviewed that in full with Film Fanatics. I liked the first one. I gave the first one a B-, I believe. This one was it was laughable. It wasn't sexy at all. So just horrible. And number 1 worst of 2017, I did an entire review of it here on the channel. It was one of the last ones I did back in the summer. And it was actually called, Is Transformers: The Last Night the Worst Movie of the Year? ? Turns out, throughout the rest of the year, it still was. Number 1 worst of the year, Transformers: The Last Night. Just nothing redeeming there. And if you want to hear my rant about that, you can watch the whole video on the channel. So let's get into the top 30. And these are all movies. I had actually exactly 30 that made either A plus, A, or A minus. So these are all in the A range. There only ended up being 3 A pluses, so that's going to be your top 3. But let's start with these A minuses that I've ranked here. So number 30, let's find it here on the sheet, was It Comes at Night. It was a really good horror movie. Joel Edgerton starred in that. Kind of came and went, but one of those horror movies with like a slow build. Sometimes that doesn't work for me, but in this one it really did. Number 29 was Lucky with Harry Dean Stanton, one of the last things he will ever do. He passed away this year, just a few months after the release of the film. Really a nice kind of slice of life for an older gentleman, you know. I think he plays 92 in the movie. I think he was 89 when he passed, something like that, 89 or 90, but he plays 92 in the movie. Number 28 was Okja, I think is how you pronounce it. It's that Netflix movie that came out in the summer. It is foreign, and it's about this little girl trying to save her animal friend, and it was really good, very dramatic, and she did a great job with that. Number 27, Blade Runner 2049. I was just introduced to the original a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, 2 or 3, and I believe we watched one of the director's cuts of it. We didn't watch the theatrical cut, I know that. So I went into it just kind of with that knowledge. I'm not a huge Blade Runner fan, but I did see it and enjoyed the first one. The visuals of this alone are just phenomenal. It might be a little bit long, but you know, another great one to the Blade Runner canon. 26 was The Post. This one was up for Best Picture. Meryl Streep, Tom Hanks, directed by Steven Spielberg about the Pentagon Papers. Just really good, solid drama. I mean, there's not much to really say about that, you know. Good drama all the way through. Detroit was number 25. A great movie about race relations in Detroit decades ago that still resonate, I think, today. A lot of, you know, police violence, a lot of white on black violence, and a very interesting performance from the kid, and I don't know his real name, but he played on We're the Millers. He played the nerd on that, but then he's done a lot of dramatic roles since then. You know, he's kind of the bad guy in the first Maze Runner movie. So that was number 25. Number 24 was another Netflix movie, actually. It's a documentary called Laertes, and it is about a transgender woman who is a cartoonist, and her cartoons start to reflect her own transition. And very interesting film, if you get the chance to see that on Netflix. Number 23, Wind River. Another solid mystery for this year. We've had a few of those. Jeremy Renner, great as always. And Elizabeth Olsen, you know, I go kind of back and forth on her, but she did a really good job here as well. Really good mystery, kind of in the Coen Brothers vein. Number 22 was Coco. Only animated one on the list, actually. Oh, that's, you know what, that's not true. I'm sorry. The only American animated one on the list, I should say. Really great Disney Pixar movie, another crier. Originally I gave this one a B+, but did bump it up after I saw about half of it a second time. It is pretty solid. It deserved to win the Best Animated Feature at the Oscars last week. Number 21 is All the Money in the World. That was a really good drama, and surprisingly so, since it was half reshot within a few weeks because of the whole Kevin Spacey sexual allegation thing. So they kicked him out. Christopher Plummer went in the role, which I've heard he gives a completely different take on the role. And I don't know. I don't know if the Kevin Spacey stuff will ever be released, but I love the Christopher Plummer version, and Mark Wahlberg, and I love her so much, too. The gal from Dawson's Creek. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, Williams, right? You know, they did a great job together. That's going to bother me. You know, the one that was with Heath Ledger for so long. But anyway, she always pops up and does a great job in, like, everything she's in. So, yeah. All right, so number 20, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. You know, this was one of many great action/superhero movies on the list, and there's, you know, more higher up than that, but just, I mean, this was funny. There's a whole standalone review of this one, too, that I did with Merlin. It's not quite as good as the original, but boy, that end is so just touching, and I don't even want to say sappy, because that connotates kind of that it's bad. It's not bad. It's a good kind of sappy, I think. It's definitely tear-jerking. Another great soundtrack to that one. So there you go. All right, number 19 on the list, another superhero movie, Logan. Come on. I mean, this was, if it's truly Hugh Jackman's swan song as the Wolverine character, I mean, you could not have asked for anything better. Making it R-rated was definitely the way to go. Maybe a little too gratuitous on the language part, but you needed it for that, for the intense violence sequences that I think really, made the story what it was. I think it really added a lot to the story. So, and by the way, it's Michelle Williams. Come on, I kept thinking Jessica Williams, who was also in a great movie that I gave a B+ to, The Incredible Jessica James. But I knew it wasn't Jessica Williams, but yes. Okay, so there you go. We've solved that crisis. Number 18 was Atomic Blonde. Here's another kick-ass woman in Charlize Theron. This was a great movie. The soundtrack was amazing, and one of my favorite parts of the movie, for a movie that was so focused on music and the soundtrack, one of the best sequences in the whole film, there's no music or score at all. It is the stairwell fight scene. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And it's so cool to have this movie with such a great soundtrack, and then just cut that for like 2 or 3 minutes where she's just kicking ass in this stairwell. It was great. So that was number 18. And your number 17, that's going to be the top one in the A- category, and that is Wonder Woman. Talk about a superhero movie that we needed. A great year to release it, of course, with all the female empowerment stuff. But Gal Gadot, just fantastic in the role. She nails it. Chris Pine does a really good job too, as I don't want to say totally dramatic, but it's a dramatic role. I mean, I guess, not that unlike Captain Kirk, but I think there's a lot of heft to his role as well. But Gadot obviously steals the show, and there is a review of that up that I did with Merlin as well. So now we get to the A's. These ones are, almost to the cream of the crop. Number 16 of 2017 for me is Ketty. This is another documentary. It's another foreign documentary, actually, much like L'Artiste. And it's about all the kittens that are, in I guess it's somewhere in India, right? And it just kind of tells the story of how, thousands of years all these kittens have just sort of roamed the streets and are very revered and loved. And, it seems very simple in concept, and I guess even in execution it kind of is. But I thought it was a really good movie, very, very touching. Number 15, another foreign one. This is The Salesman, and it won, actually, Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars last year, but it is very hard to see some of the nominees even before the Oscar show itself. So usually with the foreign categories, we have to wait till the following year to review them. So this is from Asghar Farhadi, who is one of my favorite foreign directors. If I even have a favorite list of foreign directors, maybe he is my favorite. But Separation, the movie he did a few years ago, was just phenomenal and A+. But this one comes pretty close. It's another sort of mystery story about a man's, I forget if it's the fiance or the wife, but she gets basically sexually harassed, and he has to try and put the pieces together to figure out what exactly happened here. And then ends up confronting the guy. It's just, really, really good. And again, good for the time we're in. Number 14, The Florida Project. Willem Dafoe up for an Oscar for this. Did not win. He lost out to Sam Rockwell. Very worthy actor there. But Dafoe gives a tour de force performance. I mean, it's so good. It takes place in a Florida rundown apartment complex, The Florida Project. And at first it seemed like kind of sort of a piecemeal character study, like we'll focus on this character and then we'll go to this one and this one. But it really kind of takes focus about a half hour in, and then all the pieces fall together. And Dafoe really is fantastic, and it is a very, very good drama if you get the chance to see that. Let's see. Number 13 is no. Oh, there you go. I, Tonya. For some reason, I didn't actually list these in order. I listed them alphabetically and then wrote numbers next to them. I apologize. But I, Tonya, number 13, another one with some Academy love. You saw Margot Robbie and well, she was nominated, and then Allison Janney won for supporting actress. This was such a good movie. Here's another one I originally gave an A- to and kind of bumped it up upon reflection, and watching a couple of scenes again online. It's a funny movie. It's dramatic. The choreography with the skating is really well done, and Margot Robbie really is, coming into her own. Suicide Squad, I know, was a bit mixed. I liked it more than most, but certainly the Harley Quinn character was a standout in that, and she gives another great performance here. And as somebody that grew up with that whole thing happening, the Tanya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan thing, I was in high school when that happened, really took me back with that, and I thought it was very well done. Number 12 is the other animated film on the list. It is My Life as a Zucchini. This one was up last year for Best Animated, but again, it is foreign, so sometimes it's hard to catch those before the Oscars run. I thought it was really well done, and my cat agrees, apparently. My Life as a Zucchini was it's a cute movie, actually. It's about a little boy and kind of meeting people at school, and it's short. It's maybe no much more than 80 minutes, but it was very well done. I thought it was cute, and deserved to be nominated last year for that award. Number 11, Molly's Game. This is Jessica Chastain. I had said in my Oscar Snubs podcast that I think she should have been nominated instead of Meryl Streep for Best Actress. She gives such a great performance here. Then Aaron Sorkin with the writing and directing, and then Idris Elba playing the hard-nosed lawyer, but understanding to her plight too. Just really, really solid drama. Number 10 is the final superhero movie on the list, Spider-Man: Homecoming. This was a surprise for me because I think all of us, everyone in the world, was like, really, another Spider-Man? But then we saw him, the Tom Holland version of Spider-Man in Civil War, and then it was like, oh, okay, no, he's like good as Spider-Man. We can deal with this. And then Marissa Tomei as Hot Aunt May was good. But the one thing that strikes me about this movie is that not only is it a great superhero movie, and of course Michael Keaton, great villain, but it's a great high school movie, and that's something we don't get a ton of anymore. Usually one a year we get that's a solid high school movie. Edge of 17 might have been my pick for that last year, and this year I think it actually might be Spider-Man: Homecoming. I don't think there's any further, high school movies on my list here. Okay, so now we get into the single digits with the top 10. Number 9 is The Big Sick. I touted this one on my Oscar snubs as well a little bit. Holly Hunter could have been nominated for supporting actress. I know I was sort of struggling to come up with somebody that could have been nominated for supporting actress that wasn't. I think Holly Hunter, would fit that bill. The Big Sick, written by Kumail Nanjiani and his wife Emily V. Gordon, about sort of their meeting and dating and getting married. It's such a good romantic comedy. It really is, and it's funny and it's dramatic because she has a horrible disease that leaves her in a coma for a while, and then Ray Romano and Holly Hunter come in as the parents. Just it's top notch. He is great in it, and I thought it was a very good movie, The Big Sick. So number 8 we come to, and that's I Am Not Your Negro. This was nominated last year at the Oscars for Best Documentary. I'll be honest, it may have won. I don't remember. I think maybe that OJ documentary won, but this was at least nominated if it didn't win. Great look at race relations in basically the 60s. It's about a lot of Dr. King stuff and James Baldwin and Malcolm X, and most, if not all, of the movie is shown through this archival footage from the 60s and 70s, from TV shows and speeches, and just the way it's pieced together is just great. So that was number 8. Number 7, Lady Bird. This was nominated for Best Picture, among many other things, at the Oscars. Greta Gerwig, of course, highly touted as Best Director, one of the only best female directors that's ever been nominated. And one of my favorite lines at the entire Oscars is when Emma Stone, was going to announce the list of nominees, and she said, "These 4 men and Greta Gerwig," something about, really had their own stamp on the movies or whatever she said. But I just thought that was a great line, just showcasing that. But, whoever it's directed by, male or female, obviously it's a female-centric story, and we've seen this year, Patty Jenkins in Wonder Woman. We've seen that, a lot of times a female-centric story is enhanced by a female behind the lens. But Greta Gerwig, the up and coming, I guess, director now. She was up and coming actress several years ago, and I don't know, that never really seemed to take. They plopped her in a bunch of different indie movies, and then she was the love interest in Arthur, the remake of that with Russell Brand, and just nothing really seemed to take in that vein for her. I thought she did a lot of good movies in that time period, but maybe directing is where she's headed next, and I would be fine with that. She's a great director, and Saoirse Ronan, Laurie Metcalf, great in their roles here. I suppose this could be considered a high school movie. It's not. It's more about her family life and her relationship with her mother, but she is in high school, so I guess if you want to classify that, that could work. Number 6, The Disaster Artist. This is the James Franco film with where he's doing Tommy Wiseau from The Room, and it's just like, it's shot for shot perfect when they do scenes from The Room. He does great in the role. I think he could have been nominated for Best Actor. I think maybe he wasn't because of some of the sexual allegations around him that have surfaced. They've sort of gone away by now. I don't think we're really talking about them that much as we are with some other people. But there's a school of thought there that maybe that's why he didn't get nominated. I think he did a great job in this movie, and it is funny. A lot of cool cameos, as usual, with Franco and Rogen at the helm. But yeah, a very, very good movie. Especially great if you've seen The Room, but if you haven't, even if you've watched like the honest trailer for The Room, I think you still get the impact there. So number 5, Beauty and the Beast. I was worried about this because the animated version is so great. And Merlin and I did a standalone review of this one that you guys can check out, from back in March or April. But just fantastic. They added a few really cool things to the storyline, a little bit of the backstory on Belle's mother, which we never saw in the animated version. There's a couple of new songs in it that I think were really good and a bit heart-tugging on the strings. But, a movie I saw 3 times in the theater. I don't do that too often, maybe once or possibly twice a year, but usually, it's reserved for just movies I cannot get enough of. Beauty and the Beast was one of those. And that's when I worked at the big theater, and man, I would stick my head in when they were doing a song and just watch, for a few minutes. Just a great movie all the way around. But the final A on the list is Get Out. This was such a great movie. I was uncomfortable this entire movie, which was the point, I'm white, so, I think I was supposed to be uncomfortable the whole movie. The horror, the comedy, the mystery aspect, it all just blended together so well. Jordan Peele, amazing as a first-time director, and I'm so glad he won a writing Oscar for this. I thought maybe it would go to Lady Bird or... what was the other one that was... 3 Billboards, I guess, was up in that category. I thought maybe it would go to one of those. But I'm glad it went to him, and I'm really glad the Academy nominated for Best Picture and Best Director. That does not happen often for movies that come out in the first few months of the year. Really, the first 8 or 9 months of the year. Almost everything anymore, for the Academy is like August or later. Boyhood was another recent exception that came out like in the summer. But for this to come out in February and be as touted as it was by the Academy is great. And boy, everything about this movie worked, didn't it? So good. But not quite to that A+ range. There was maybe a little bit something missing from Get Out. 3 movies this year got A+, which is not a lot. Usually there's like 5. But, I don't know. This was not a stellar year for movies, but all of these ones I mentioned are definitely great. So we at least had these 30, right? So number 2 and number 3 are the ones that I struggled, I think, the most with placing. Because we had 3 A+, like I've been saying. Number 1 was easy. That was going to be, from when I was looking at these, I was like, okay, well, that's obviously number 1 of the year, my favorite. But number 2 and 3 are struggles for me because they're both just outstanding. And they were both up for Best Picture at the Oscars this year, which my number 1 was not. My number 1 nominated for a couple technical awards, but not for Best Picture or Actor or Director or any of that. But we'll get to that. Number 3, I'm going to say, is The Shape of Water. Guillermo del Toro was, he won Best Director and this won Best Picture, and deservedly so. I think he... I am not as versed in his films as some. I've seen, like, the first 20 minutes or so of Pan's Labyrinth. I started watching it at like 2 in the morning, and so I fell asleep, and it was certainly no reflection on the film. But, we know Del Toro for his visual, landscapes, not landscapes, I guess that's, whatever, but, just the visual nature of his films, and here, he just knocks it out of the park. I mean, the story, I think, is actually probably, if there is a weak element to this movie, I think it's that, because it's a little more standard than some. I mean, it's a standard love story. Yes, it involves a fish man, or I guess he's not a man, just a fish in general. But but it's of everything in this movie, because this movie is so unique. The story's probably the one thing that's a little bit pedestrian, but it works with everything going on. Sally Hawkins, fantastic as the mute. The way she emotes with no words it's just incredible. It's so great. And then you've got the visual aspect of it. Octavia Spencer giving another one of her great performances. She's kind of the same in a lot of movies, but it typically works for her, and it works again here. And then Richard Jenkins, great as well. He was nominated for supporting actor for this. He's great as well. So that is my number 3. Number 2 might have been good to have it at number 3 because it's in the name, and that's 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. This is the one I just, between this and Shape of Water, they're both so amazing. 3 Billboards, again, if there's a complaint about it, and I spoke about this briefly during my Oscar Snubs podcast, it's that maybe Sam Rockwell's character has been seen a little bit before, the racist cop, but I really do think he does something different with it, that we haven't seen before, and, the arc of his character is great. And, Woody Harrelson's cop is great. Frances McDormand obviously, deserved her Best Actress Oscar. She steals the show here. And this movie is just, it's so, it's just gut-punching. You feel so bad for this woman, whose daughter has been raped and murdered. And it's a great drama. She nails it, as she typically does in her roles. But that is my number 2 then. And number 1 of the year, my favorite movie of 2017, it's Baby Driver. From the word go of this movie, it's just so amazing. There wasn't a frame of this movie that was wasted. Edgar Wright did such a great job with it. I fear that it is a little bit tainted now because of the Kevin Spacey stuff. And thank God this movie came out over the summer before the Spacey allegations. Because obviously, like I said, he was, erased from all the money in the world. He's not the star of this movie. They could have done the same thing here. They could have reshot, his role. And I'll be honest, I haven't watched it since the allegations. But, look, I'm not going to get into a whole political thing about that, but Kevin Spacey does a great job in the movie. He's a great actor for whatever his personal flaws are, and I think, there is something to be said for, art being separated from the person. A lot of people don't like Tom Cruise, for his Scientology beliefs. Look, the guy's a great actor, and he does a lot of great action movies. I'm very much looking forward to Mission Impossible 6. Or is it 7 now? I think it's 6, right? Anyway, but Baby Driver, let's get back to that. The soundtrack was amazing. I've never, I don't think, seen a movie where the soundtrack is so well integrated into the storyline. I mean, it's been done a little bit here and there. Magnolia is a good example, speaking of Tom Cruise. But this was just something wholly other, and when I saw the first trailer, I was like, oh, Ansel Elgort, I don't know, he's such a pretty boy, he's done a few dramatic things, but he's so cute, are we gonna really take him seriously as Baby Driver? And we do. I did, at least, it's great. Everybody, even the supporting cast is so funny, adding the comic relief with Jamie Foxx and John Hamm, and some of the other guys. It's so well done. If you've not seen Baby Driver, oh, you must. It is so good. It is my number 1 movie of 2017. All right, well, that's it. I've taken up enough time here talking about the movies, but there are the top 30 and the bottom 10. If you are not following the Facebook group, which is just Dan Reviews It on Facebook, I'm going to post my entire list. All of my grades for every movie I saw this year is going to be on there. So, you can check out, all the other ones that I've seen. And you can kind of, where's Captain Underpants? Oh, he's there. Don't worry. So, we have that up there. And also check out some of the other recent reviews. I did a standalone of Death Wish. I did the Oscar snubs. The Oscars are over, but that's all right. You can still check out the video if you haven't seen it yet. And then coming soon, we have a lot of stuff coming on the channel. Merlin gave me some great ideas of things we're going to do, and some of it is going to feature, a lot of this stuff. I have I'll say it. I pride myself on my collection. I have an amazing collection of CDs and DVDs and old comics and a lot of stuff. So I think we're going to kind of be tackling some of that stuff as the months go on here. A lot of TV show reviews coming up as well from the books that I mentioned in the Welcome Back to the Channel podcast I did. So a lot of stuff to check out, and please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't. We're close to 200 subscribers. Would love to see you as one of them. And again, the Facebook group is Dan Reviews It. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.